All right. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where in the world you are. I want to welcome all the listeners who are listening at the moment. This is Crackin the Spectrum, real talk from the front lines. And your two hosts are Rob Ralston, which I know I spelled your name wrong, Rob, who's a father of an autistic son and a life coach for fathers with special needs. And me, of course, your host, Mary Stanley, who is a autistic mother of two special needs children, a veteran in the military, and a specialist when it comes to neurodiversity and understanding the mind. So, welcome to the show. All right, Rob, I cannot hear you. All right, now try speaking. All right. Give us one quick second. Small technical difficulties, which is what you get with live radio. So, as we wait for Rob, my co host, to come back, the call line is open, so anyone wants to have any questions or any comments. And also, the chat is open. All right. Rob will be right back. He ran to grab his other computer. All good. So, one of the things we're going to talk about is the moment that everything changed in the world for a family. And we're talking about the day we get the list or we get the diagnosis and how it redefines everything in your life. Good so when my kids were both diagnosed, they were diagnosed a year apart, unformally diagnosed, and then formally diagnosed at the same time because I had them tested together. I learned what autism was because I didn't know that it was a thing. I didn't know anything about it at the time. And my daughter was getting help because her first diagnosis was developmental delay. And the specialist that was working with her at home, because she was 4 years old, helping her get caught up, said that my son might be autistic because her son was. And so we went and got tested, and it came out that he was. He was 3, not speaking, screaming a lot. And then my daughter got diagnosed shortly after. It was all about what went through me was, one, what was it? How do I fix it? And then it was that period of time, especially um, between me and my husband, about what caused it. And I went to, what did I do in the military that caused it? Was it the shots that I got? The medications I took. I took aspirin a lot because I get migraines. To what did I do? What did I contaminate myself with to cause this? Because I've never had it in my family before. Little to learn years later that I am now too, or I am. And then it was the years of fighting because my husband is a big conspiracy theorist and he blamed me because my kids were vaccinated, even though there is no direct link. Research has shown us there's no link between vaccines and autism. And the way that I'm wired, I went from moving past the guilt and all that to what causes it and how do I fix it? How do I help my kids live a life? All right, give me one quick second as Rob's working on that. All right. All right. There we go. Sorry about that. I just send a link to somebody for the show. And my mind, I can't type and text at the same time. So, there's so many different emotions that go through, from grief and expectations and understanding, what you thought they would be and what they end up being are two different things. But also you get that like sense of relief at the same time. And I say relief because now there's that puzzle piece. Like you didn't screw up as a parent. You didn't do anything wrong in the sense, there's an explanation for it. And then you go to wanting to fix things or make life easier for them and helping them fit in. And that's the hard part as a parent, is we want to pave that way. And I made this mistake with my kids at first too, where we do everything for our kids to make it easier for them, from getting them dressed, picking out their clothes, you know, feeding, giving them food or making their meals, to, not giving them chores, and, come and coddling them or soothing them every time they get upset. When in reality, that just makes things a whole heck of a lot worse. The first thing is stopping measuring milestones against everybody else's timelines. For me, that was the hardest thing too, is like, you want them to speak, but they're not. And then I just got to the point where just as long as they stop screaming, I'm good. But, everyone makes these comments of, well, shouldn't he be doing this now? Or shouldn't he be doing this now? Or shouldn't he be doing this? And then you get to the limitations, because you get that no list.
Okay, Mary, I'm here.
You are. Hang on. I forgot to close out the app on my phone. All right. You there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me
Awesome.
now?
I can hear you.
Good deal. Yep.
So I don't know how much you heard, but we were talking about the D-Day list.
Yep, that's right.
And I call it the D-Day, but it's what you go through when you get the diagnosis. When you get hit by a freight train.
Yeah, I, I'm getting an echo back in here. So,
Hang on. For some reason, my app didn't close out. I'm going to do this the easy way.
hmm
I'm going to restart my phone. Now try it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you, no echo.
Yep, yep. Okay, we fixed that.
I
Okay.
couldn't get the app to
Yeah,
shut off my phone.
there you go. I see. So it's still feeding back where you were on the phone. Okay. Yeah, with uh, with me, the denial in the beginning, because I didn't really understand. I wasn't completely I didn't understand that this would be a lifelong thing. So what hits me, it didn't hit me at first. It hits me later on when I see the Food Network shows where these little kids are doing this stuff that Josh will never do. And like there was there was a lady that was I was networking with, and she corralled me before we ran out of time, and I'm old enough to be her dad, and so, and I didn't mind that. I was glad that she corralled me. Hold on, Josh. Josh, hold on. Take over, Mary. He's dragging me off, but I'll be back real quick.
Sure. Then you get the overwhelm. It's the therapies, the schools, the appointments. It's the navigating resources that no one tells you about. It took 3 years to get services and stuff for my kids that I didn't even know existed. And that's the one thing we, as a community, really need to do better about is um, creating databases of resources.
Yep.
One nationally, but two locally.
Yeah, there needs to be one place where people can go to get the resources, and and that's the problem. You got government and private resources. That's what I'm doing on my website. Mine is all uh, now that I think about it, private pay, and if I can find the the Medicaid waiver services, or just services provided by the government for each state, because each state should have a database. Uh, it just because the parents are overwhelmed and they don't even know what questions to ask or what therapies are out there, what programs are out there, much less how to find them.
That's it. And then what therapies to use? There's speech, there's OT, there's different kinds of OT, there's behavioral therapies, integrative there's so many different therapies out there. That gets overwhelming. And then, dragging the kids into the mix on top of that all and having to take them from place to place to place. And then you have traditional ABA therapies. Now, I don't believe in traditional ABA therapy. I believe in ABA therapy. And all
Hmm.
ABA therapy is it's applied behavioral analysis. It is literally helping to adjust and change behavior.
Hmm.
New ABA therapies, new and what you can and we're going to talk about this next week on next week's show is
Hmm.
more on how to tell what therapy is good and what's bad, what works, what don't work. And
Right.
there's no one size fits all therapy. That's the hard part. These kids come in all different shapes and sizes and different issues and different everyone's brain's wired differently. So each kid is a snowflake, and I hate using that term, but I use it because I live in Minnesota, and we
Mm.
grew up learning that there's no two snowflakes alike,
Right.
and that's how it's same as a fingerprint.
Hmm.
And traditional ABA therapy is designed to teach them to mask, bury, so that everybody in society feels comfortable around your child.
Hmm.
I always call it the Stepford kid,
Yeah.
like out the Stepford Wives, where the new therapies are integrated and adjusted based on that child. They
Hmm.
look at that child as the experts of their own domain and
Right.
what they need, and you're adjusting to them and what works. It's meeting them in the middle, not making them figure out or how to fit into society. It's them figuring out how society fits into them and giving them options. But it also teaches regulation techniques and teaches them to understand the mind body connection and what they're feeling to help eliminate meltdowns.
Yeah, and the meltdowns are and that the ABA does good on the meltdowns. With my son, it did good with him understanding that he's got to wait. And like at the plumbing shop, I'll say, Josh, wait right here, and he will do it. and it's unless there's the toy store across the parking lot, he will run off after that. But a lot of times he will wait. So that did help. And then what the now the arm flapping, if they're saying, well, we've got to use ABA to keep him from doing that. No, we're not going to use ABA for that. That's his way of regulating himself. We want him to self-regulate and not have a meltdown. Okay, we'll work on that. We're gonna we're going to honor that. That's when he gets loud or he flaps. That's like he's doing right now. That's good.
It's his form of communication.
That's right. He's communicating here now that he's happy that he's got his VCR tape and we had the catatonia came on and I had to give him the medicine and then give him bedtime medicine. But now I've got my son back because the medicine kicked in, and now he's flapping and so that's good.
For parents who don't know, do you want to explain what catatonia is?
Yes, catatonia is it's like in the movies where you're staring off into space. Only that makes a good movie. Now, but what it is, it's unresponsive. So what happens is when he gets into these events, what it looks like for us is he will push tapes in and out of the VCR. He will jump in and out of the shower. He will pour drinks, pour pitchers of his Crystal Light down the sink, and then he will get into self-injurious behaviors by trying to put his hands down his finger to gag himself, and and no matter what I say, he is unresponsive. There's not I can't say, Josh, stop this, Josh, come here, or and he won't. I mean, and so when it started, we went through 5 years of this, where because the doctor didn't know what it was, and the doctor retired, and the new doctor came along who was a psychiatrist, where the other doctor was a developmental pediatrician. Says, "Oh, that's catatonia," and gave us medicine for it. So now it's under control. It stumped all our therapists, and nobody heard about it. But now it is something in the autism community. It's out there. My experts
So,
never heard of
really, what catatonia is, for layman's terms,
it.
is it's an extreme over meltdown.
Right.
It's like a meltdown on steroids.
Okay.
And one thing I want to address next week when we address, what was the other thing we were going to address?
Yeah. Well, we were going to do our um, we were going to do things of the week. We were going to do medicines. You talked about a minute ago. Yeah, two ADHD people as host of a show is not a good idea. So you said something profound. We were going to go over next week. I'll remember it in a minute.
Well, normally I take notes. That's why we can listen to it again. But um, so some of the triggers for catatonia is extreme stress. Oh, meltdown. That's what it was.
Yeah, we're going
Extreme
to work on
meltdowns
that. Right.
and burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of people don't realize, so an average person gets burned out. You're tired. You just want to go to sleep, or you just need your me time. You need to be left alone. With autism, when you get burned out, it's like your whole body just shuts down
Yeah.
and you don't know what to do. It's like, so you're basically your your brain's in pause mode as your body's in repeat mode. It's
Right. Right. I mean, that makes sense. That his it's he gets. It's interesting that yeah his And there's really no antecedent. The antecedent, like a lot of therapists uh, will ask you, okay, what happened before? What was going on? Because they're looking for a trigger. And with the catatonia, we haven't found a trigger. I mean, most we called it sundowners before in the beginning because we didn't know. Uh, I didn't know what it was because it would happen. It very rarely happened during the day. Most of the time, it was about after 6 o'clock, and it's interesting.
So one of the causes could be burnout.
Yeah,
When you look at it, the times that it happens is there are a lot of things going on during the day.
yeah,
So if there's a lot of different things
ah,
going on during the day, he's got extreme burnout where he's just done.
right. That. Thank you, Mary. That's a great piece because I didn't think about that. So that makes sense. And that, like, there were some times like overwhelmed or shut down, like we went to a Thanksgiving uh, with the in-laws, and so that was very overstimulating at a new place, and he went into the catatonia. So that makes sense.
Um, so in the link in the chat is to our Skylar network. And we
Hmm.
are on Skylar Network for is the home for our radio show. Among both Rob and I are there with our
Hmm.
communities. And so we're gonna be adding into that show coming up tomorrow. I'll add in so it's a sensory dialogue. It's a sensory log. And so you can fill it out to learn what the sensory issues are. And that makes it easier to track in real time to figure out good and the bad. But
Yeah.
also there'll be different brochures or flyers or handouts on some of the stuff we covered on the show, such as catatonia
Hmm.
and different causes of it and how to help w- walk them off the ledge, basically.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. That'd be great for the parents and our listeners, and it's gonna and that stuff will be there. We may add stuff. If you're listening to this a couple of months from now, it'll still be there. It might be on the bottom of the page, but those resources will still be there.
They'll be in blog format. Plus, I'm
Ah,
working on creating um, videos to go with it. So,
right.
like presentations.
Hmm.
So, that is the one great thing about the Skylar platform is that it has all the stuff in there. And when you join the Skylar network and you join in our communities, I'm going to throw you under the bus, Rob. I
That's
don't
done.
know if I told you about this or not yet.
Hmm.
So, because of the way this platform is set up, and because most listeners actually, from statistics, listen more than they watch, we're going to stay in audio format instead of go to video. But
Okay.
we can choose one day a week or one day a month or however often you want. We're going to go live on Skylarverse a different day from our shows to meet the hosts. And so you'll get a backstage pass into us
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds exciting.
and you'll get to ask questions, one on ones, whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's going to help the parents that they've got an issue. We're on the radio show. We're talking about it. Then if they join the chat or they want to join the some type of after show, then while we'll strike while the iron is hot, we'll ask our question while you're thinking about it, and we'll do some I'll do some coaching and Mary will do some mentoring, and then we'll give you a piece, and then you can come back next week. You can sign up and get a session with us, and we're here to support you.
The best part is, and I'm not afraid to admit this, but a lot of ideas and a lot of things that I incorporate into what I do are from other parents and other coaches.
Amen.
Because
Yep.
just because one thing worked on 2 or 3 clients doesn't mean they don't work on all.
Right.
You know, everybody's different, everything works differently. But everything that I recommend or Rob recommends is stuff we've done on our kids or ourselves first.
Yep. Yep. And that's what you remember, like in the autism support group that I've been in for 20 years, the 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 things that they've told me that I use and that work are what floats to the top and what I remember. Like with you have a lower functioning child go to the same store all the time because they get to know you, and if you're in the elopement stage and you say grab him, then they will
Yeah.
before he runs out in the street. So you hang with, because I'll start repeating my stories. We can, uh, but they're so yeah. That's you go to the same place like with my son that we would go to the same White Castle all the time, and I said, "Can you break the chicken rings in half?" Because like 10 years ago, he would burn his mouth because he wouldn't wait, and so they would break him in half, and they did that for us. So they and and so that's why you do that. You go to the same places, and they want to work with you, and they'll
Oh,
they'll, they'll help you.
but that's like the Quick Trip gas station is a truck stop where we live. They have like the
Uh-huh.
best fried chicken.
Great.
So, like I have my Friday special. I go in and I order chicken and hamburgers and stuff for the kids. I order enough food so mom can don't have to cook Saturday.
Right.
They get hungry, they can heat it up. And a
Right.
lot of times my kids will walk in and they'll look at them and they'll get their orders ready without and if there's like cookies that are about ready to expire, they'll just mark them off and then give them to them.
Right.
They've gotten so much snacks and food from there because they know the kids. But then I
Right.
can also know that, they can go in that store and not have to worry about anything.
Yeah, I mean that's a safe place. I mean you can go in there and like if one of your other parents that you're mentoring call you or text you, then you can look down at your phone and know that if the kids all of a sudden ran out, they'd say Mary, and you look up from your phone. So they have created a safe place for you and your husband to go in there with the kids, and and they recognize the kid and they see the kids are getting older. Oh, he's got a new skill. Mary was telling me that the other day, and it's glorious. And then when the new people come on, so have you seen if they hire new people, they'll say these are Mary's kids,
Oh yeah, I
and
train in the new people.
and you train in the new people. So that's what happens. You even when I say they know your kids, that you train the new people. You say, like I say, well, welcome to the Kroger on State Street. This is Josh. He does this, and I'm going to have to get you to come over here. I got to hold on to him. I'll hand you the card, and you can, show me how to do this because I'm trying to hold on to him. And
That's it.
that's it. And it helps to have a loud military voice, or I don't. My voice carries, and so Mary, in your military training, did you always have a voice that carries, or was that part of, or did you develop that in the military?
I developed my loud voice when my hearing went.
Aha, interesting. Yeah.
Because I didn't realize my I talk is and that's what you'll notice on the show here too,
Hmm.
is I'm very aware of it, so I'll start talking loud, then I'll get too quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to modify mine. I mean, and I just try to be aware of it because people will turn their heads, and my wife was sleeping for third shift, and I got on the Smart Connected 8, and I get on these. So the longer I'm on, the louder I get, and that's what I tell people. Like the nice lady that corralled me, I welcome people that, and as you get into the problem is a solution. That when you get into when you're when you have a special needs child, and then you, instead of looking, oh, how can we solve this problem? This is terrible. This is terrible. Well, like with my loud voice, then I can be on radio shows. I'm good on podcasts, and I love to talk, and so I'm gonna make money with that instead of
Mm,
trying to corral and mute my loud voice. How can this how can this help? How can the problem be the solution? What can we do with this? And it helps reframe and look things in a happier way instead of all this as doom and gloom.
it is, like, so I used to wear hearing aids. I lost them. I have to get new
Aha,
ones.
aha,
But when my son was 3, we found out he's got perfect pitch.
aha.
And so the VA covers your hearing aids. They cover great hearing aids, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But he figured out how he could make a certain tone
Mm,
that would cause interference in them.
interesting.
And he would do it to watch my reaction, and then he'd laugh.
Yeah. I mean, this was great. I wonder if he. Um, so did he know? I mean, he how did he figure that out, or was it just something that he was making a tone and he saw that you reacted to it? Did he realize it was a hearing thing?
He was doing it to irritate me without the hearing aids because so
Uh-huh.
my way to get to annoy my kids, to get them
Mhm.
up,
Yeah.
because they're heavy sleepers. So
Uh-huh.
mom doesn't sing well. I will admit that I suck. I sing even worse on purpose. So I'm loud and I'm off key, way off key, and it annoys the crap out of them. So for me to get them up without, yelling or fighting or, dragging them out of bed is I would put on boy bands. I go back boy bands. So I go back to New Kids on the Block, Hanging
Mhm.
Tough, and I
Right.
sing. So it was his way of getting back at me by, "Mom, you suck, but I'll show you how to," and he started making he loved, like, the chants. He loves opera and musicals. He
Good.
loves music. And so he was starting to sing, make with the opera sounds and doing the scales, and he figured it out, and he used it against me after that.
Hmm.
He learned my weakness, and he used it.
Yeah. And the good problem to have is through this experience you discovered he had perfect pitch, or this maybe not discovered it through this, but as part of the process, so he can learn music and do stuff with music, and not only could he make money at that, that he can get a whole lot of satisfaction and and enjoyment out of doing something that only he can do, that he can do with his hands, with his to learn to play music, if that's his route. How it does he play any musical instruments yet?
He's working on the piano
Great.
for fun, and
Hmm.
he does more now singing, but,
Hmm.
he does the drums. I'm one of those parents that, alright, so I learned what autism was. I learned it was a brain issue. So what's the thing I do? I go buy a drum set.
That's fine.
Drove my husband nuts, drove my neighbors nuts.
Hmm.
So the kids would sit and play on the drums, which helps great with the left right brain movement, coordination, things like that.
Hmm.
And we started out, with every kid with pots and pans and spoons till they started breaking my wooden spoons. And so he started out with that and doing the rhythm, and
Yeah,
but
and it,
like the hard part is like when we go to concerts, like we do local events and they have like local concerts, he can tell you instantly if a singer's off key, and it drives him nuts.
yeah, they don't want to. Well, yeah, it drives them nuts because um, they're already anxious and tired, and this little kid telling them something that they that they in a one way know that they're off key.
He's like, "No, you're wrong. No, it's not right. No, it's not right. No," and he just keeps going on. No, no, no. He'll cover his
And
ears.
yeah,
Is
and
Josh laughing in the background?
yeah, Josh is laughing. He's bringing me, Josh, what do you want to do? You're going to pull me away? No, we got 22 minutes. Go lay down, lay down, lay down. And so this is a good example of that Josh, I asked Josh to go lay down and he did. Now, when he was in the catatonia, he wouldn't have taken no for an answer. I took a picture of, of Josh in his chair while we were talking to send you on my setup in here. I don't know if the listeners want to see our stuff in the background, um,
Mhm.
but that was yep. But Josh is doing good. The medicine's finally kicking in, and it's I planned this out. Like I planned, he wanted to go for a ride. I thought, well, that'll, and I gave him his bedtime medicine at 9, and so now he's chilling out and letting me support you parents, and that's and we plan things out, and we figure out like Mary's children are, they could be sleeping or we're doing this later on at night or they're winding down, and you just figure. And like another thing that I do, what you do with the autistic kids is like with Josh, if we can't go to White Castle, then we won't go by White Castle. I go home a different way. And
Right.
and Grandma said, does he still love Burger King? I give, here's a Burger King gift certificate. Well, what I did is that when we go to Burger King, then he thinks we're automatically going to the shop, to the plumbing shop where he likes to play. So I figured out if I go out the backside of the parking lot of the complex, uh, then if I go out the other way, then he doesn't flip out as much and bite his arm. And I say, Josh, we're not going to the to and so that's what I was doing. And with Mary's your coaching, now I'm going to say, Josh, we're not going to the plumbing shop. We're going home. And I tell him a couple times, and he bites his arm, but he understands. I mean, it takes him. I got to tell him a couple times. So we're making good progress.
Now, what are some things that you wish people would have told you instead of them you having to figure it out the hard way?
Yeah. Let's see. Um, yeah, what popped in my head, I wish they would have explained the denial instead of being smirky smartasses, because they were the couple of teachers were peeking out the window, and they told me this later, and in their gossipy way, say, "Watch, Josh's dad's gonna pick him up and give him piggyback ride." I mean, and he was already, this was middle school. And so I was still doing that. And they said, yeah, we knew you were in denial, but we thought it was, I mean, and that stuff made me angry for a long time. I don't even remember now exactly what it was. So I wish those parents would have supported me in the stages of denial. And that's what I'm going to do and that's what I'm doing with my clients. Um, so yeah, and I wish they, uh, I wish they would have told us about, um, explaining the Medicaid waiver and stuff, because they throw out all these terms and they assume that we understood. I said, okay, the waiver plan, the waiver plan. Well, what are we waiving? So it's a matter of, I can't think of a specific item, and just to have patience for us parents for where we're at with, because we're all different. Us parents absorb things at different rates. We're at different things of denial, and then our kids are at different levels. So I wish they had more awareness of where we were at.
How about a dictionary on all the damn terms?
Yeah, yeah, and
Like Medicaid waivers, um, paid parent
right,
programs,
hmm,
neurodiversity, autism,
right,
echolalia, stemming.
yeah. And one of the things that what popped in my head is I get these calls from moms looking for support groups for teenagers, and twice I told a mom last week, well, you should start one, and I said there's our big autism group in town uh, that has the big event. I said get with them and start it under them, and I and so what? So we'll have to do that. I mean, and that's one of the projects. That's one of the resources. Because that's my latest stick for Mary's approval, and the other branding people on Alignable is resources. So I want the parents to come to my website and go through the resources, and that may be one that I can do, and that would be easy. Just take your phone and voice text a long list, and then email that to yourself, and then go through it and drop it in, and or volunteer your virtual assistant or get Chat GPT uh, to do it, and so
And then we're going to add all those resources to the radio show
right,
also.
that's right. Yep,
And
I've
so if
been
you any listeners know any resources out there, any places, any things, good or bad, because I want
yep,
reviews.
right,
Put them in the group, put them in the chat.
yeah, and then we'll incorporate them. And I want national and local. If like I've got autism cafes, and there's three of them now. You're not going to drive to that place to get a coffee. They can inspire you to, okay, look, this is what this company did. This is how they're supporting their community. You could find a You could start a cafe. You could support a local cafe. You could order uh, some some of their food and have it shipped. So I want national and local resources. If they're doing something exciting in your town, I want to know about it, and we're going to put that. I'm going to put it on my website, like I've got New York resources and Ohio resources, and I'm gonna and that'll be great,
And also, different zoos, different museums,
right?
different restaurants.
Right.
When I was in Buffalo, New York, for Memorial Day a couple years ago, we went to a mom and pop diner.
Hmm.
But and it, I don't take my kids out to eat very often. We usually just eat at home because I live in the middle of nowhere. We don't have a lot of places.
Right.
And so, you know, my son was having issues, and the waitress was phenomenal about it.
Right.
She went and grabbed a whole stack of those little butter, they look like
Rolls.
coffee creamers, but they have for butter.
Aha. Aha.
And she sat there with him for a little while, showing him how to stack them.
Great.
You know, places that are able to accommodate or even just, good service.
Yeah.
Because there's so many more trends in restaurants now about not wanting kids in them, and they
Yeah.
really don't want special needs kids.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. So you find a restaurant that can work. And another story that popped in my head is that a lot of times the parents are embarrassed if their child acts up. Well, this is another thing where the problem is the solution. My son let out a one of those loud yelps, and the whole restaurant got quiet. Well, that waitress, she came quickly over to help us. And so ask for what you want. I mean, I've had Josh, another story that popped in my head. He was having a fit or a meltdown, and there were five people in line, and the lady was trying to do a coupon thing, and she didn't look up to see all these people. And I said, "You got to check us out now. He's flipping out." So, and they did. So it's you ask for what you want, and and what's great about autism, the new moms and dads, is that you're going to find people say, "Oh, I've got a somebody in my family is on the spectrum, or somebody in my family they've got, they're downs or they're blind or they're deaf, and we accommodate just like we're accommodating you. So I, I'm asking you. You can feel embarrassed, and look at that, and look around and soak up when somebody says, hey, I understand what's going on because we've got a family member. Well, soak that up and let that replace your embarrassment. You're a good mom and dad, and you're doing the best you can, and people see that.
You know, one thing that I always, talk to my husband about and talk to a lot of clients about is, when your kid gets overwhelmed in the store, first thing people think about is they're spoiled rotten little brat, and I've heard it a lot. And then I flip the script around. I'm like, well, at least he's got a reason to be overwhelmed.
Right.
What about your kid who's normal
Mm-hmm.
throwing a fit because he can't get that candy bar or he can't get that toy? What's
Right.
your excuse?
Right. Right. And what Mary just did there, both philosophies are right. Mary is the drill sergeant, foot up your butt, and that's a compliment, Mary.
I know.
And I'm the more of the touchy feely type, and both things are good. And both approaches in the grocery store are good. Well, you got to understand, blah 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 blah. Look, Mary says he's got autism. What's your excuse? And Mary is setting a boundary against their bad behavior of assuming that he's a spoiled rotten brat, and she's educating them, and that person's going to remember Mary and her kids, and they're going to think about it the next time that they see a child like that. And that's a blessing that Mary is giving them. And then I bless them with being very kind and understanding, and both things are good.
It's whatever works for you.
Amen.
I just got tired of hearing adults, and it was to the point my daughter was getting upset about it, and she'd actually go
Mm,
up to him, "Excuse me, God don't like bad people, and bad people are mean to kids. My brother's got a problem, and if you're gonna sit there and judge him, then that's bad, and you're a bad person."
well, that's great, and your daughter got that from you. It's like
Oh,
there was
yeah.
there was a cartoon, there was a commercial about probably 15 years ago, but the daughter, they're in the car, and there's some kind of accident, and the daughter gets out there, I'll handle this, and she gets out there and runs over, and the mother is so mortified, and not don't be mortified. That was a good commercial, but this is great. So
Yeah.
you trained your daughter. Trained is not the right term. Your
She
daughter
was born that way. She will
born.
defend anybody else but herself.
Amen. That's her personality, and she sees you doing that, and you've created a safe place for you to go up there, and it's going to make a better impact because if mom does it, I mean it's a bigger impact when she does it. She's defending her little brother, and I'm so proud of her for like she helps out and she watches him when and that's the balance that siblings. That's one thing I coach is siblings. Is some siblings feel left out because the other child's getting all the attention as a child. Then as an adult, they feel like, well, I can't go work on the other side of the planet. I've got to stay here. And then the girls feel like they want to help the mothering thing, and then the parents say, wait a minute, you need to be a kid. So there's a balance when with siblings, with parents of siblings. How are we going to balance this out?
And that's, the lot of the guilt that I have, especially so they're a year and a half apart.
Right.
And so my daughter struggles with simple concepts.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't read, she couldn't write, she couldn't do math, she can't do this, can't do that. And so she would get a lot of help from us just to get her into school and get her going in school.
Right.
And so in the process, her brother got left up to his own devices.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's the flip side because now he gets a little more attention than she does because he needs more help
Right.
with certain things.
Right.
And so I always feel guilty about, okay, well, if I would have caught on to all this sooner, I could have helped him sooner. But where would that have left her, and
Hmm.
trying to even it out.
That's right. And that's what us parents go through. We go through, we have, and then every feeling you have is fine and welcome. It's you talk to your coach. I'm the coach, Mary's the mentor, and then if we get over our heads, then we'll recommend going to a therapist, and you work on that stuff.
That's it.
Amen. Amen. And what you're going to find is that, like Mary, she'll put out an agenda, and we might not get to everything because we're talking about what's going on, and things are coming up, and we'll do the flow of the conversation, and we want people to call in and get in the chat and talk back and forth, and we'll put you on the air, and we'll ask our question, and if you and then you can get with us later, and we'll set up an after show and maybe get more detailed help from us.
Once we get going on this and get rolling,
Hmm.
um, depending on time wise, we'll do after shows.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so one of the things that I wish I would have learned sooner was the difference between a meltdown and a or a temper tantrum and a meltdown.
Right.
And that
Right.
sensory issues are real and they're exhausting.
Yeah. Yep. And the sensory there, then that can lead to a meltdown because they've got autistic kids cannot everything's coming in them at once, and they get overwhelmed, and that's, as Mary was explaining, that could be the antecedent to the catatonia. So the kids they're not having a fit because they just can't get their way. They're overwhelmed, and that's what shows up.
And that's the hard part too, is
Hmm.
trying to figure out what is what and how to deal with that and picking your battles.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I did tonight. I let Josh have he got in honor of our group, and I let him take the whole 2 liter. It was only about an inch left, and he came in. I said, "Okay, this will this will keep him occupied or be a distraction while we're doing this thing." And he drank a drink out of it. He set it on the counter. I put the cap back on and put it back in the fridge. So we're choosing our battles, uh, and that's what you do every day with your children, wherever they are, whether it's autism, whatever disability you have. We know autism when we talk autism, and all the disabilities um, are welcome because we all worry. All of us parents worry about the same things, and so I'm the special needs family's life coach and all the special needs. So if you hear us talk a lot about autism, that's what's in our wheelhouse, and everything else is welcome and to be discussed.
Mhm.
Right.
100%.
Hmm.
It's all just different wirings in the brain, really.
Right.
It's all about overcoming the struggles and embracing the challenges.
Yep. And it's not a it's I like the reframing of things. Autism. It's technically we can call it a disability, and it's going to be a gift. It's a lifelong struggle for us parents, and our children are not broken. They're different, and we don't have to. We can look for some healthy golden cures, not shadow like the original ABA stuff. We're going to learn from those mistakes and go forward. And like you'll have different sets of doctors. I've got this theme will come up a lot. I've got doctors that don't really think Josh is going to going to be able to be caught up. They don't tell me that directly, and they're giving me they're giving me ideas, and I soak those ideas up. And then we've got our other Mary and the other crew of people that I have that are ready for Josh to go forward in different ways. So I'm soaking up stuff from both places.
That's it. And that's
Mhm.
the biggest part is just, you know, and the hardest thing to do is you get so much advice thrown at you
Yeah, amen.
and you're
And it's a good
told,
problem.
that you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this,
Right.
or it needs to be this way. Big thing in school, eye contact. They
Hmm.
have to focus and stare at you. Well, I suck at eye contact for one.
Yeah.
And two, um, like my daughter, for instance, if she's looking at you, she ain't paying attention to a damn thing you're saying.
Hmm. Well, that's good because she's found a way to give you eye contact, but not have it bother her because a lot of the autistic kids, there's too much going on in your face, too much overload, so they can't look you in the eye. But she's found a way around that.
So when she's bouncing around, she's looking everywhere else.
Hmm.
Um, then she's listening, and she can
Hmm.
repeat and regurgitate everything you say back to her.
Great.
And it's getting the teachers to understand that.
Hmm.
And it's just, adjusting things and getting people to see. And that's the biggest thing is trusting your own gut as a parent, your
Amen.
instincts. You are your own expert on your child.
That's right.
Trust your path and trust your kids.
Yeah.
If they don't want to go to a therapy and they know therapy's coming and they're throwing a fit, find out why.
Yeah. That's right. And it's yeah. I mean, look at each problem is it's a opportunity to learn more about your child, and then you'll build on that, and you'll build on that. And when you're overwhelmed and you're tired, um, just get a good night's sleep, and then when you're in a better spot, then you can relook at it. And these all these things you keep on all your successes, everything we've done with Josh and what Mary has done with her children, that we you keep building on stuff, and then you sleep better at night because you think, how am I going to solve this issue of the grocery store? Well, we're going to get groceries delivered um, because I've created this problem of him running off from me, and I controlled the running off, but ripping the toy out of my hand that he finds and then throwing it. And so instead of signing up for a legal shield to keep him from hurting somebody, we're just going to get groceries delivered. So it's all part of um, you think, well, how can I, what can I do? You look at your emotions, and then you got mad, sad, glad, fear, and the two types of shame. So you put them in one direction, and then you look at your king or queen. How okay? Let's look at the big picture. And okay, magician, the direction of the west. What ideas do you have? The magician comes up with lots of ideas, and you tell, okay, your direction of the south, your warrior. Okay, do that. And so you're in charge, and this is a great model to be able to when you're upset and overwhelmed with your child, to step back and say, okay, what am I feeling? And let's look at the big picture, and let's divide ourselves into four different parts, and you decide and you choose to be in charge.
One of the hardest things is, and you get so overwhelmed and so
Hmm.
tired of always having to be on the offensive.
Yeah.
and always having to think of solutions on the drop of a hat, and always dealing with everything all the time.
Right.
And everyone always looks at you for the answers.
Hmm. And it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't have the answers right now.
Exactly. Now you say it in a very nicer tone than I do.
Hmm.
And part of my problem is that I'm already at the point of I'm gonna just snap,
Hmm.
and then someone comes about wanting this, and it's like, all right, I'm working on being able to take that step back and just walk away and take a
Hmm.
minute to reset myself
Hmm.
before I tell someone not so nicely that, they're an ass.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it's so hard to, like, it's okay to ask for help. Great. A lot of us don't have anyone to help.
Yep.
Babysitters or people to come help to give you that break.
Yeah.
Or
Because that,
someone, and you have people that can do it, but you don't trust them to do it.
yep. That's part of the problem that we have children that have, you can't have the average babysitter. You have to have somebody um, that's experienced. It's not as easy to find a babysitter for a special needs child, and then you have to trust them. You have to trust your own gut. Is this a good fit or not? And uh, when you get a babysitter, just go outside in the yard and cut grass or pick up sticks, and then you can do that a few times. You're still getting a break. Now, eventually, when you you feel more comfortable, and the sitter gets to know the child, and you get to know the sitter, and then you can go to the grocery store or go out to dinner. And it's a process of trusting.
It is, but it's a scary world out there when you hear the news and how many kids with
Yeah,
special needs ends up abused or neglected.
yeah, yeah. And one of the things that that unfortunately, that if it bleeds, it leads. And so these stories get headlines, and then people watch the commercials in between, and the anchors and the production crew and everybody gets paid. So what I want, parents to do is, know what the dangers are, know the signs, and you'll generally get that from society. And then, and then, and don't watch the local news. That's my projection onto our listeners. For me, it's too, it's all bad stuff, and so um, that negative energy. I mean, it's you are the three people, the five people. You are a combination of the five people you hang with. So if you have friends that are always downers, and you're going to be down, and so we can apply that to the news that you bring in. I mean, I've I'm a lot happier when I don't watch the national news every day. I have I just so that helps. So you need to know what's going on, and limit these stories.
That is, and I was talking to somebody today about it. One of the good things about, one of the only good things about RFK is
Hmm.
he has managed to do something that hasn't been done before.
Hmm.
And what he's managed to do is get a bunch of autistic adults to
Yeah.
actually self advocate for themselves.
Right. Yeah. And he didn't do, yeah. And whether it, I don't think he was doing that on purpose. And
No.
even if he was, it goes back to, I'll say it many times, it's a good problem to have. And that's what I say about Josh is that he has he's a high needs person. So a higher functioning child, I'm trying to rewrite how I say that, but the kids with high functioning autism that can be mad at Autism Speaks and be mad at the puzzle piece thing and be riled up at JFK. I wish Josh could do that. So for me, that's a good for parents out there. That's a good problem to have.
Right. And it's empowering them for the first time.
Amen. And as a young person coming, yeah, they could be the first time they're all riled up about something, and that's good. That could be um, if they're yeah. You see, what I just had a thought that if their parents uh, did not vote for Trump and the RFK package deal, then they're going to be talking about this with their kids, and their kids are going to get this information. If it was somebody that wasn't worried about RFK and wasn't triggered by that, then those kids might not have heard about it. So this is good.
That is it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's, the only good thing is parents are, you know, um, the one good thing about this day and age is that, autism used to be the thing you had in the closet. It was
Hmm.
something you never talked about. You
Yeah.
never admitted to it.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to shift in
Hmm.
understanding that, it's okay.
Yeah.
No,
Hmm.
I always look at autism like the Down syndrome used to be.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I know that what popped up in my head was one of these stories from the 1800s where there was this room that they were remodeling. This lady was at the story the doc you know the lady's at the bank, and she's telling, we just bought this house and they got this strange room with this lock on it, and it's a little room, and I don't know what the other parents did 100 years ago, and they looks like they had a child in there. And another lady came up, an older lady, and said, well, they had a disappointment child. And that just breaks my heart to tell that story, but that's what it was. They didn't, they were disappointed, they didn't under they were embarrassed to take this child out. So this child wasn't outside in the sunshine, it was in this room. And I'm assuming there was a window and well taken care of. I'm just going to assume that. I'm very, naive, and that's a story. I'm sticking to it.
And that's really what it was. Or they went to asylums.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's they didn't understand. Yeah, they went to asylums, and a lot of the asylums were, you probably had a third autistic and the two-thirds schizophrenic, and um, it's terrible. And then there'd be medically fragile, and there'd be, the other terrible things like you got a fever that was too high, and that's, infolight. And I'm forgetting how you pronounce that, but that's why parents were all scared of. And it's a good thing to be worried about fever. The fever under a certain thing is doing its job. Over a certain thing can cause brain damage, and those children ended up in those type of institutions because the parents couldn't take care of them. But they're
Well,
right down the
it's
hall. Yeah,
why Helen Keller turned out the way she did, right?
was that I
Um,
the story
Helen
I
Keller,
never, yeah.
She had scarlet fever when she was a baby. That's how she
I
ended
did
up
not.
blind and deaf.
Yeah, that's the story. I did not know that. I didn't know that part of the story. That's terrible. And well, I mean, from a touchy feely guy, that's terrible. We look at the big picture that that she was
Yeah, but
able to
I
overcome that.
use yeah, and I use the Helen Keller story a lot for parents to
Good,
understand. Look at what she accomplished because someone believed in her
right?
and helped her overcome her where she struggled.
Yeah, blind and deaf. I saw that. I watched that kid that you watched. We probably watched the same thing coming home with the after school special of the Helen Keller
Yep.
story. They're doing the hand pump because this was before running water and the hand pump and splashing water on her face and doing the sign, and it got her, and she figured it out. She made that teacher made the connection. So the um yeah, so now that's great, glorious. Yep, Josh is doing good. He's covered up. The medicine's working. And then when we talk about medicine, there's new parents are worried about medicine, and it can be overprescribed and used for shadowy reasons, and um, it's good, and it'll let him sleep through the night, and so then I've got to he'll wet the bed sometimes if he oversleeps, but if I get him up to pee, then he'll bring me socks and want to go. But I've been doing better with that with Mary's coaching about we just say no, we're not going on a ride today, and he understands. So we're doing good.
Mhm. So many times, I talked about this before you came on the show.
Hmm.
We want to protect them from everything and do everything for them.
Yeah.
So we end up over coddling and
Right.
handicapping them more
Hmm.
than treating them like a child, a regular child with different needs.
Yep. Yep. I've done that, and I'm not going to say guilty. I'm going to say because I'm not going to put myself down, but I've done that, and like I'll say, Josh, okay, he helped me pick up a toilet that was actually put together, and I said, hold on to it, and we got it up in the truck, and so it's really, and it's yeah, I've done that. I haven't. Josh is doing a lot more things because I haven't coddled him, and it's so when someone gives you that advice, um, soak it up, and sometimes it's going to come with a foot up your butt, and then you're mad, and think about it. You know, you have a charge of anger. You think about that. You find a way to release that, and then is there a blessing? Is there part of this that could be true?
I had the same issue. That's why we have this saying in our house, walk away. Just walk away.
Amen.
Cuz I
Yep.
would take, like sweeping the floor took 20 minutes. I'd get frustrated, I'd go take it over and do it. Or,
Yeah.
I so now mom only cooks 2 meals in our house. If they're
Hmm.
hungry in between, they make themselves something. So if it's a pizza out of the freezer or ramen soup, or if they need extra help making it, then I'll help them. But
Yeah. That's great. You're building life skills, and then they have confidence in themselves that they can do this stuff. They might not feel it, they might not understand it, but it's there.
because my only goal is, for them to figure out something to do with their life,
Amen.
whatever it may be.
Yeah. And all these things that you're doing with them, you're exposing them to. One of them is they're going to latch on to one of them, and so that's a great lesson for our parents. We'll expose them to whole bunches of stuff. because if they're passionate about something, then they can then then that's the way to motivate them and say, well, let's try this and let's try that, and find your passion. Let them find their people, find their hobby, find what they like to do, and then you can find a way to. Um, you may even move your own house. I mean, I've had people move to Louisville to let their kids work at UPS because they had a program. And so figure
Yep.
out what your kid wants to do and and uh, and work that idea. And you're going to try lots of different things. And one of those things is going to hit, and you're going to learn something from each thing. Just because they didn't stick with it doesn't mean you or your child didn't learn something.
It's like Ariana's goal when I decide that I'm ready to actually start speaking on the road instead of just doing everything
Yeah.
online.
Hmm.
We're gonna get move out of the house
Hmm.
and get an RV so they can
Ah,
travel.
great. I'm all excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Because
mom
what?
can think about right now is 2 kids in an RV.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of RV shows, and I think that you can do that. And
There's nowhere for mom to hide.
right. Well,
It's an
I mean, if
RV.
you're at the if you go to the campground, I mean, I think the good Wi-Fi. I mean, you may not start off boondocking, but if you have a camper, you have a travel trailer, and you go to the KOA or the campground, then the kids can run around, and then you can take a walk, or you can go up to the laundry room or the gift shop or the and I've got it all planned out for you, Mary. There will be plenty of places for you to get away.
Uh, the good thing is for internet, we have T-Mobile, so our box goes wherever we go. So as long as I have a phone signal,
Right?
my
Well,
internet
yeah,
works.
you can do that. You can boondock at the Walmart parking lot, and you can do a lot of things. And this will be a grand adventure. You can watch the schooling videos uh, where
Well, and
the
that's the
kids.
best part of my kids at school. They go to school online through a charter school.
Anyway,
So they
anyway,
can go to school anywhere,
amen.
literally.
And then you
Because
don't
that was
have
her
to.
first thought was she got out of school. I'm like, you go to school on the computer. You're still going
Right?
to school.
Amen. And that's what I tell all our parents. You think outside the box. Put everything, lay everything on the table that's, and think about it. You can travel with your kids, and like as you get older, you may, you've got people in town, but if there's an organization or a program or a facility or something that's really working good, and you do some research, you go down there for a month, and you may have to move there, and that's a sacrifice because you're giving up relatives that could help later on. It's your life is your child, and that's part of the process of denial. That there are moms and dads that go in denial. There's either complete denial or halfway denial, and there's always a little bit of struggle of denial, and so you when you lay everything on the table, well, we could sell this house. I mean, this house is big house for Josh. I'm into prepping, and like if there is the internet banking grid goes down, or the the, the the East Coast electric grid could be shut down. So as a prepper, I do this for Josh. I've got a plan to be able to. This house is for Josh. Is to be able to that all my neighbors, whether they know it or not, will be guarding the road because I'm going to be feeding them with little food from everybody will chip in, but in a so this is my plan for Josh in that type of situation. So you instead of and that's part of the denial, that this is the second phase of denial. When you're in complete denial, then you don't do any of these things. But once you get through that, then your life is around your child.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So on Friday's show, we're going to talk about meltdowns
Hold
and
on,
how to
Josh. Wait.
navigate them,
Just wait.
what meltdowns are,
Yep. Oh, he's dragging me away, Mary. Tell us about next week.
and we're going to talk about different medications and different things. Rob's son is on medications, mine are for different health issues, different supplements, different things like that, and natural approaches versus medication approaches. And that's Friday at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. And follow us on the Skylar Network. The link is in the chat. And today we just kind of talked about going through a diagnosis and, all the things that you express and feel. And we may not have named things that you went through. So, please share. And if there's a particular topic on the show that you want to hear about, put it in the chats or put it in Skylarverse, and we'll love to cover those topics.
Yep. Yep. That's the plan.
And so, in the meantime, join us tomorrow at noon Eastern when I have a lovely guest. You've actually met her,
Mm-hmm.
Gabby,
Yep.
and she is an adult with autism who is working for her law degree, and her goal is to become a representative to help pass and change some of our laws and regulations.
Yep. Yeah. And if you're
So,
listening to this in any of these shows if you're listening to this a few months or even years later, get in touch with Mary or myself, and we'll find you the link to that show.
and we're on all major platforms, and yeah.
Hold on, Josh. Wait, wait.
So,
Mary's going to sign off. Wait 1 minute.
have a good night and day. We'll see you back here tomorrow at noon Eastern. And bye, Josh.
Josh,
Have a good night.
bye. Here we go. Signing off. Here we go. Okay, let's hit the exit.